The summer heat had made us lazy. As we'd been packing our bags for Bali, my wife and I had made grand schemes of hikes on the sides of volcanoes, scuba diving past sharks, paragliding into the unknown. Now though, barely a couple of days into our stay, we found it impossible to move from our beach towels. I stared into the bright blue waves, my mind blissfully blank. Abruptly, my eyes fixed on an irregularly shaped blob, marring the smooth white expanse of sand at our feet. I'm not sure what it was exactly that pulled me to it, but I seemed unable to look away. "Look," I told Abigail, "next to that gull. What do you think that is?" She groaned. "It's too hot to think." I got up. The blob was not a dead animal, like I had guessed. It was a bundle of cloth, wrapped tightly around something. The bundle was closed with a complex arrangement of knots, but with a bit of finagling, I managed to get it free. My mind was racing. What could possibly be inside? The reveal was underwhelming. Staring up at me was a thick bundle of paper. I could see writing on the front page, a tangled mass of faded black curves that meant nothing to me. The inside of the bag must have been lined with something waterproof, because the pages were bone dry. The rest of my vacation passed by in a blur. As soon as we were back home, I scanned the pages and sent it off to universities, linguistic experts, anyone I could think of. I was worried that the pages would crumble to dust when I precariously pulled them out of the bag, but surprisingly they held strong. I sent out more than 6 emails, and I got 0 useful responses. And then, out of the blue 3 months later, a letter. To my surprise, it wasn't from one of the many linguists whose help I had enlisted, but rather from the head professor of anthropology at Johns Hopkins University. The envelope contained a neat bundle of typewritten pages with a handwritten letter attached to the front of it. I read the letter out first.
"Dear Harvey,"
it read,
"I've received your email with great pleasure. It has been nearly 2 decades since I've last seen the script you sent me. It is called Irantavar, a language spoken by a long-dead tribe on an unnamed island in the Pacific. I have attached a translation, pieced together with what little knowledge we have of their language. Please excuse the few artistic liberties I've taken with the translation. As for the contents of the pages, I can only pray that it is the fanciful tales of the overly imaginative. Unfortunately, truth is often far stranger than fiction. I can only agree. Here is the manuscript, copied word for word. I'll let you read it and make your own decision."
The manuscript read as follows. Everyone in my tribe knows of the snip. For the uninitiated, it is not much more than a cautionary tale to scare the young ones with. Eat your food, or I'll send you to get the snip. When I was a child, my friends and I would tease each other with it. The village grandma will get snipped before you do. It was as real to us as ghosts or monsters were. As I grew, so too did my motives and passions. I fell in love with the rich culture of my people, the way we put the community before ourselves. We were a small group, but we were mighty. I wanted nothing more than to devote my life to the cause. Our people, we are very lucky, but the fortune we have been blessed with is quite a double-edged sword. We are never short of produce. Our land is fresh and green, and our animals are healthy. Our luck did not go unnoticed, however. Our neighboring tribes saw our prosperity, and as their jealousy grew, so too did their violence. Our tribe has had to find a way to protect themselves, and thus was born the Akamara. The Akamara consisted of the fiercest, most revered members of our tribe. They fought to their dying breath, and under their protection, we could live in peace. They were my heroes. The 7 months of preparation to become an Akamaran were the worst of my life. I learned how to detach mind from body, how to kill with anything from bows and arrows to my bare toes, how to think of myself as a grain of sand floating down an endless cosmic ocean. Finally, after I was stripped raw of myself and my soul deemed worthy, did the Akamaran elders allow me to receive the Snip. Akamaran warriors were easily identifiable to both friend and foe, not just because of their physical prowess, but because of their noses. After the months of training are complete, an Akamaran initiate becomes a true warrior after he survives the Snip. Shears are used to cut into the flesh of the initiate's nose, just below the bridge. The blades go deep enough to sever the nerve that lies underneath it. Though the practice has been going on for generations, my bride-to-be, Pai, had been the first to deduce to me the science behind it. The nerve was connected to the part of the brain that processes fear. After the nerve heals, the warriors, quite literally, become fearless. Their brains are unable to process fright the way normal people do. When our enemies see that telltale, V-shaped scar on the bridge of the warrior's nose, they drop their spears and flee. They know that fighting the Akamaran was a fruitless battle. And today, after years and years of waiting, I would finally instill that same fear in my enemies. I found Pai near the shores of the sea, as I had expected. She held me close, and I gratefully leaned into the embrace. She smelled like home. "I don't want you to do it," Pai said tearfully. "It's a cruel practice, and if the elders had any mind, they would put a stop to it. I would tell the Akamaran themselves, but, of course, they had to run away and hide as soon as you were to be snipped." I laughed, holding her closer. It is true that the Akamaran weren't currently on the island, but that was because they had gone to find help to get us through the unexpected heat wave that the island was facing. Soon, I told myself, I would be with them. "This is my destiny, Pai." I kissed the tears off her cheeks. "I'll see you soon." "I'll be waiting." She gestured to the loose pages near her feet. "If I can ever take my mind off worrying about you, I'll try to repent." Repentance was one of the main traditions prospective brides and grooms carried out before their weddings. Casting out one's past grievances into the oceans lets the couple start their married life anew. I was looking forward to writing mine soon. The ritual hut was at the far corner of the village, right at the mouth of the jungle. I took in the sights of my home, thinking about how this might be the last time I ever saw the place I loved most. Many an initiate had been driven mad by the pain of the ritual and had killed themselves to stop the agony. I prayed that my training had strengthened me enough. The village elders had gathered at the hut. They were chanting in low voices, reciting ancient prayers of strength and courage. I took my place at the center of the room, and I closed my eyes. I heard a metallic clank, which meant that the eldest had picked up the ritual shears and was coating it with the herbs. Not herbs that would lessen the pain, of course, but rather herbs that would amplify them. The voices around me reached a crescendo as the shears were drawn open. I steadied myself. Whatever lay in front of me, I was ready. With a definitive snip, the shears closed around my nose. Never again in my life would I complain of pain. An arrow to the head would hurt as much as a paper cut. I knew I would never encounter something as gut-wrenchingly unendurable as the inferno of agony that had erupted on my face. I fought to stay on my feet as the elders left the room. My breath came out in ragged gasps. The door closed gently, and I sunk into the fetal position, my mind seeming to break into white-hot shards. As the nerve healed, initiates were supposed to use their time on meditation and self-reflection and come out of the ritual with renewed strength. At this rate, I didn't know if I would even make it out alive. Time passed. How much of it, I could not tell you. For seconds, or hours, or days, I was filled with all-consuming pain. I was lying on my back, with closed eyes, trying to find the willpower not to kill myself, when suddenly, the door opened. I sat up, momentarily startled out of my pain. The time of healing was an incredibly sacred moment in a warrior's life, and they were to have absolutely no contact with anyone else. The punishment to whoever disturbed me would be severe. I looked towards the door, blinking away tears of pain, and caught sight of some thing. It had darted away as soon as I had set eyes on it, but I got a good enough glimpse to know that it was not human. Long, hooked talons sprung forth from its deformed yellow body, black feathers spilling from its head like a crown. The simple exertion of lifting my head up had left me bone-tired. I wanted nothing more than to lie back down and take a good long rest. But my training held me back. It was my duty to my people. I propped myself up on all fours. I tensed up my muscles, trying to find the energy to get up, when something hot, blisteringly hot, came raining down on my back. I craned up my neck, just in time to see a burning log about to fall right onto my skull. Without my months of training, I would have been flattened into pulp. As it was, I just managed to throw myself into the side as it came crashing to the floor. I pulled myself up, spitting blood. This thing, whatever it was, clearly possessed some sort of intelligence, A wild animal would not have the capacity to set a hut on fire. With shaking legs, I stumbled out of the burning hut. The nerve clearly had not healed yet. Along with a pounding headache, the corners of my eyesight were tinged with red, as if blood was seeping into the sockets. I vowed to get a message to the Akamaran if it took everything I had in me. Then, my heart sank as I remembered there were no Akamaran on the island. With all of them gone to find help for the heat wave, I was the only thing standing in the way of the monster. My heart was thumping in a very un-warrior-like way as I scanned around me. The afternoon sun was pounding down on me, and the searing heat, paired with my failing vision, meant I could barely see 3 feet ahead of me. My guts twisted. I could not let my people down. Then, as I turned around, I saw a bright yellow flash amongst the green of the trees. The thing was now standing shock still. It seemed to be staring straight at me, with a stillness at odds with the constant motion of the jungle. With no weapon and no plan, I went for it. As I limped into the jungle, my mind was whirling with questions. Was this thing what the Akamaran were actually protecting us from all along? Could all this really have been happening right before my eyes? Was I really so blind? The monster made no attempt to run as I came closer. Then, when I was just a few breaths away, it bent down. As I reached out to grab it, it threw something hard and pointed straight to my face. I was driven to my knees. The impact had reopened the semi-healed nerve, and fresh, hot pain was rained down on me in unsending waves. My mind went blank. All my thoughts turned into a single, bloodless scream. I might have stayed there forever, died there, if I hadn't heard the wail. It was the monster. I turned around, just in time, to see it fall. With no strength left to walk, I crawled over to it. It had tripped on the thick forest undergrowth, and it was lying limply. It seemed to be in a daze, was murmuring to itself, a nefarious hiss that chilled me to the bone. I knew what to do. The gods had put me on this earth, and now I had finally found the reason why. I got up, my muscles ripping apart with the effort, and I fulfilled my destiny. I folded my hands into fists, and I brought it down on this thing. I was well versed in delivering death blows, and though this wasn't my best, it still well served its purpose. As the monster breathed its last, I laid my bruised body next to its shriveled yellow one. We were going to die, together, this thing and I. Perhaps we were not so different in the end. And then I woke up. The sun had long set, and the coolness of the night air was like a balm to my battered body. Belatedly, I realized that though my body was aching, my face felt no more pain. The nerve had healed. I stood up. I was now an Akamaran warrior. My dream had come true. Then, when I was the highest I've ever felt, I caught sight of the corpse of the monster. Just like that, everything came crashing down. Later, when I would return to the village, I would find out that it was not just the ritual hut that had caught fire. Every single dwelling was turned to ash. Not because of the monster, but because of the heat wave. The dry straw that had made our roofs was like tinder to its merciless rays. The true reason for the period of solitude while the nerve healed was not to protect the initiate, but rather to protect the village. After the snip, the pain could drive you crazy. It could make you see things differently. As the village was embroiled in flames, there was only one person who thought about me, who risked everything to ensure I was safe, who had the intelligence to draw me out of the village, the bravery to keep me there. I stared into Pi's lifeless face, blood already seeping through her bright yellow robes.